always spewing hate and stuff, but something has to be done if things are being thrown. That's just not acceptable. And our team, our staff have been recipients of this probably more than anybody else. Maybe that's just because we are the champions and most successful, and that's the only way they can project their hatred of that. But it's ridiculous, and I think it has to stop. It's unacceptable.
Well, things getting thrown and songs being sung are one thing, but I think the real shame of this event was what was shown on the screen in the ground. And I see people talking about this already in the chat. I mean, I don't need to tell you who this is, but, well, it's a picture of Michael Stone, obviously, who's, well, it says here, Hearts have issued an apology after a picture of a notorious loyalist killer was displayed on their stadium's big screen. The Tynecastle Club have launched an internal probe after the snap of UDA member Michael Stone was displayed during birthday messages before Saturday night's clash with Celtic. So at first I saw this and I saw other people saying, it's Photoshop, it didn't really happen. But if there's multiple camera angles of it and an apology, then we can be in no doubt that this happened. And this was a club employee's actions, not some fan that can't be controlled. Stephen, what's your reaction to this?
Well, I mean, obviously that's absolutely reprehensible, and something that Hearts really have to take responsibility for, and they also have to be held accountable for this by the SFA or the SPFL, whoever has jurisdiction. And given the history of that ground, given the succession of incidents that have happened when we've been there, from, as David mentions, from Neil Lennon getting attacked, from various players when the ball goes into a crowd, that into the crowd, you're essentially taking your life in your own hands, approaching them. The Adam Ida thing, I think probably down where he ran when he scored the goal, that's where the substitutes warm up mostly. And I think probably you can imagine the sort of things they were shouting at Adam Ida, being an Irish international and also being a person of colour. He ticks all the boxes for the loathsome scumbags that reside in Tynecastle to hate. So I'm sure they were giving him loads when he was warming up as a sub. And when he scores a goal, sticks it away. And he's got every right to run them up and say, come on now, give me abuse now. And, they just showed what they actually are by chucking things at him. But I think, it's high time action was taken about Tynecastle, because that's just far too many incidents. And if I was Celtic security team, I would have serious questions about whether they can guarantee the safety of Celtic's players and fans going to that ground. And the fact we've only got 500 fans there as well now means it's absolute. You're taking your life in your own hands, walking from Haymarket Station up to the ground before it. So, I searched today and I can't see any mention of the Michael Stone display anywhere in the mainstream media in Scotland. So it looks as if they're going to attempt to brush that under the carpet. But clearly, as you say, Gav, someone within Hearts knew what that was and the implications. And there really has to be action taken, because somebody's going to get hurt at the end of the day. And, let's hope some of the action's taken before that actually happens.
Well, what about all this new law about hate speech and everything within football grounds? I mean, is no one mentioning that all of a sudden? And, well, let's continue on this for a moment, because JJ McGarvey there says it was a shocker, but the person uploading probably didn't have a clue who it was, to be fair. I mean, we don't know whether the person knew or not, but this is a club representative putting that up. And as somebody said earlier, imagine the shoe was on the other foot. Imagine a similar thing was done by a Celtic employee on the big screen at Celtic Park. That would be international news. It would be UK-wide for sure. It would probably stretch way beyond. And, there'd be absolute uproar. But this can happen without any sort of response in the media, David.
Well, there's certainly statistical evidence of hate crimes against Catholics and those of Irish origin in Scotland, which absolutely shows that there are clear biases in society and that we've suffered those types of abuse for many years. It's not that it's not known. There's still institutionalised bias against us. And certainly whenever Celtic fans say, for example, take up a cause of Palestine, which is purely humanitarian and is not about picking on any other religion or race of people, rather than it is to defend people who are in terrible circumstance, that is made a huge deal about. Whether or not people agree with, singing during the Queen's death or something. I mean, I could have said, well, leave it alone for that one, but it certainly was made a huge deal about, and then the minute silence, etc. So we know that if we do anything whatsoever publicly, it's jumped on by the club, and that causes tension between the club and the fans for sure. But I'm just not witnessing it anymore. So it is, as far as I can see, one rule for one and another for everybody else, because it's not jumped on, it's not dealt with. And even though there's video evidence, people can assault managers of teams and still not have any criminal conviction for it. So it's horrendous.
So giving us a crap allocation of seats, throwing stuff at our players, overt hate speech, both audible and visible. Have you any message for Hearts fans out there, Stephen, after that game?
Nothing broadcastable. No, to be honest with you, I'm a little bit conflicted because I think there's quite a lot to like about Hearts as a club. If you take the loathsome supporters out of the equation, they have got a decent ownership model where fans have got a say in the club. They did step up to save their club when they went into administration, put their hands in their pockets, organised properly, and did something about it. So for that sort of thing, and they are a big club who should be more successful than what they are, but you just can't ignore this sort of thing. They're getting they seem to be disappearing further and further into this far right wormhole, and this sectarian wormhole. They seem to be getting worse. I mean, I know that it's always been there in and around Hearts, but it just seems to be getting worse and worse as the years go on. So, the only thing we can do at the moment is just keep pumping them on the park, and we've gave them we've took 4 goals off them in their own midden. And sent them all up the road with 10 minutes to go in the game. The place was 3/4 empty. So that's all we can do. Just keep beating them, keep putting them in their place.